Good evening from wherever you're joining in from. My name is Ayokunle Aziz, and for today I'll be your the program's moderator. I'm a program associate with the Idea of Africa, and I'm very much excited today to be moderating today's learning section. I trust we're good. Kindly confirm if you can hear me. Type in one in the chat box if you can hear me. Yes, I need to know you can hear me and I'm not speaking to myself. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Like I said earlier, my name is Ayokunle Aziz, and I'm a program associate with the IDEV Africa. And this afternoon, right here, I will be moderating today's section. How has been the day with us? How has been our weekends? How's the day going? Mine is still very much ongoing, so it's still very much busy day here. I trust yours too is also very engaging and interesting. So I need you to share in the chat box where you're joining in from, what you're hoping to get from today's sections. By the way, today we'll be looking at the future of renewable and sustainable energy. The future of renewable and sustainable energy. So, what are your expectations for today? And I would like to read from the chat box one or two persons to share what they learned from the previous class. So I want to see our comments. Kindly share with me what did you learn from last week and what do you hope to get from today's topic. We'll be looking at the future of renewable and sustainable energy. For us to know where we're going, we need to know where we're coming from. And if a set objective is not, a clear objective is not set, we might not be able to achieve what we need to achieve, that sustainable energy. So particularly in Africa, and I'm trusting that our speaker for today, a very, very resourceful person, would help us, bring to limelight the future of renewable and sustainable energy and where we are heading, and peradventure share with us some of the things that we've been able to, some of the breakthroughs that we've experienced, particularly in Africa. So I want to hear from you. What do you expect to get from today's learning section, the future of renewable and sustainable energy? Okay, interesting. Thank you very much. I enjoyed that. So without wasting much of our time, we'll be going to today's topic properly, and I'll be inviting forward our speaker, our guest speaker, our facilitator, our teacher, and is no other person in person of Mr. Stephen Ayodeji Stephen. Ayodeji Stephen with a strong focus on accelerating the sandwich to sustainable energy resource and lowering carbon emission in the transportation industry. Ayodeji is a committed and aspirational expert in the clean energy field. He formerly worked as a technical assistant at the International Power to X Hub, that's the IP2X, where he was instrumental in creating and putting into practice cutting-edge strategies for generating green hydrogen and advancing electrical vehicles. Ayodeji, who is presently pursuing a PhD at the Dublin City University, is investigating the possibilities of hydrogen as a way to decarbonize transport system as part of the Next System project. With a virtual club, I want us to appreciate Mr. Ayodeji Stephen. How best can we learn something but to hear from somebody who is actually not only has he worked in the field but also researching that field. So we look forward to a more engaging and informative section. Mr. Ayodeji, you're welcome. Over to you.
My name is Ayodeji. I work in the energy space. Quite young. I'm fortunate to have had some of the experience that have some of the projects going on. So I think one of also the privilege I've had was. So once again, I apologize if there is ever maybe sometimes I'm breaking. Please kindly notify me. All right. So the future of renewable sustainable energy. There is a lot going on in the world globally, and it's important that we pay attention. In the energy space, one of the key things that could really impact your career is just knowing what's happening. So I was on a an interview for a job position with a UN organization a couple of weeks ago, and one of the key questions I was asked was, how do you keep yourself aligned with trends in the renewable energy space? Luckily for me, that same organization, they have a newsletter that they release every month, and they release their newsletter just 2 days before that conversation. So I I looked through the newsletter. I think I downloaded two of the documents there, and I looked through those documents. So I could remember the title of those documents. So I mentioned them, and also, some podcasts that I'm listening to, and also how often I write in the energy space, just trying to also keep people abreast as I'm keeping myself abreast of happenings in the energy space. So I think that knowledge is a very key thing when it comes to the energy sector, and how you can actually maximize this knowledge. One of my friends reached out to me yesterday about, I think she was applying for a job, and they needed her to um, create a scenario analysis of two energy problems. And I looked at it, and in less than 3 minutes, I was able to think of a scenario analysis to solve those two challenges. So it means that, sometimes with knowledge, you're able to solve things faster. So what do people pay you for? In the energy space, sometimes you see consultant earning, say maybe on a project, $50,000, and maybe say 3 months, 2 months project, or a month project, and you know, and you are wondering why are they earning so much? Because over the time they have been able to build a track knowledge, a track of they having high amount of knowledge, relevant, keeping themselves relevant, doing quality work, and also being able to improve project in very little amount of time with the knowledge that they have. So when we look at the future of renewable energy, therefore means that it's one that we need to pay attention to. Also sustainable energy. I know that we're having conversations around, is there a difference between renewable energy and sustainable energy? Yes. Renewable energy is sustainable. Um, Sustainable energy is not always renewable. I think that's one of the simplest way to put it. So renewable energy is sustainable energy, but sustainable energy is not always renewable. Take for example, nuclear power. Nuclear is sustainable, but when you use a nuclear isotope, maybe you have maybe through nuclear fission, you break it down, then you release energy, you don't have it again. It does not replenish. But then, sun, maybe solar power now, it replenishes. Please let me know, is there a way we can communicate in the chat if that simplifies things in any way?
Yes, that is very open, so you can engage the audience. It's quite an engaging class.
Right. So please let me know if you understand, or you could just give some reactions, a down thumb if you don't get it, and this if you get it. That's basically one of the major differences, and one of the easier ways to explain it. So I'll be looking at what's happening currently in the world, and also how that this will impact myself and you. It possibly would impact our career, and also I would also be sharing along the way places that you could want to look into the future. One of the things people ask me is, how did you know that hydrogen was going to become a thing? I did not know. I did not know hydrogen was going to become a thing, because I started working on hydrogen in 2021, where hydrogen was just a global not thing. But then in fact, I went on a fellowship in Germany in 2022, and my work was focused on hydrogen. My PhD, I mean, as was said, is focused on hydrogen. So that work, that, track record of working on hydrogen for a couple of years, is one of the reasons that got me funding for my PhD. So I think that we'd also be discussing as to areas you might want to focus on, not anything on the slide, but a couple of things and experiences looking into the future, what I think will be happening based on the things that are happening now. Right, so sustainable and renewable energy are very important for mitigating the effect of climate change. I believe everyone here understands what climate change is, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and also ensuring energy security. So why and how does say maybe sustainable and renewable energy impact energy security? I'm going to tell you this. I've said this in a couple of places I've spoken, and I'm going to tell you this. The energy transition is a geopolitical war. If you're working in this space, you have to think of it like that. The energy transition is a geopolitical war. Everybody is out to protect their economy. So it means that as Africans, wherever you are, or maybe people from the developing economies, you have to think about the energy transition like that. So it therefore means that you must not allow yourself to be pushed to make decisions that are irrational, and you must think about how the long-term benefits of your decisions today would be, and what are the implications, maybe negative implications of possible decisions, and even investments that you're making today would be for you. Because when you look at it here, I'm gonna share an example of something that happened in 2020. 2020 was COVID year, yeah. A lot happened. So in 2020, before 2020, a lot of Western nations, Europe-based countries, were saying you should not use coal, you should not use gas, you should not use dirty fuels, as they put it, which I agree. I agree that you should not use those things. But when COVID broke out and there was a challenge, we saw that, well, it affected them a bit. What they did was they tried to ramp up renewable energy, especially the likes of Germany. Then something happened. Germany then said, based on the improvement that they had, Germany now said, we are going to. So before that time, 55% of energy consumption in Germany came from gas. So they said, we are going to reduce it. We are not going to use that 55. That's where the phrase, for anyone that probably has read, Fit for 55 came up. That's where they decided. So they made a plan that they were going to drastically reduce and, not to use gas again. Mind you, majority of German gas was coming from Russia. Then the Russian-Ukraine war broke out, and then things became a bit messy. And Russia said, nope, if you're not going to buy our gas in rubles, we're not selling gas to you. And Germany said, well, we do not support your war, and we do not want your gas. So Russia said, okay, no problem. Then 3-4 months later, it started affecting the German economy. That decision started affecting the German economy. And winter was coming. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Winter can actually kill. I mean, if you have been in Europe, probably your first time, you could tell that sometimes if you don't have adequate eating, you can actually die. I mean, it could lead to, severe sicknesses like asthma and other, maybe anemia and all other sicknesses. And then if you are not properly attended to on time, you could die. So Germany said, we need to solve our problem. And in last year, Germany approached Argentina for gas. In fact, they put some money to get gas from Argentina, which then tells you, at the baseline of saying we want to transition, at the baseline of saying we need to improve our economy using renewables, think about your economy first. So no matter what anybody says, one of the ways, I'm for energy transition. I work in the energy transition space. But the way I think about it is, how does it affect us now? How will it affect us in the next 5 years? How will it affect us in the next 10 years and 20 and 30 and 40 years? So it means that the decisions that we take today affect us. And when we now begin to look at it, how then can we, make ourselves non-reliant, which I will go back to the case of Germany again, non-reliant on other countries. What Germany did was actually to increase their energy security. They started investing a lot into renewables. In fact, currently, 73% of German energy is from renewables, which shows you that they have gone a long way, in building their energy security. What that means is that they don't have to rely on other nations. They make their wind turbines, they make their solar panels, they generate electricity, and they distribute it across their country, all within their country. That's one of the benefits of sustainable and renewable energy. So when you begin to think about it, it then becomes important to think about it in a way that has economical thinking in it. I'm going to encourage anyone here, either you are an engineer or you are in the finance space, whatever you do, as long as you are working in the energy sector and you want to grow fast, there are two kinds of knowledge you need to pick up: finance and economics. No matter what you do, don't say, I'm just, no, even if you are that guy that is behind solar panels, pick up knowledge on finance, energy finance, and pick up knowledge on energy economics. Very key for your career. At least it has helped me. I took some courses on energy economics. In fact, my master's was on renewable energy economics. My PhD is focused on technology economics. So I'm doing the techno-economic analysis even as part of my PhD. And I study physics, and technology economics and policy. I took a course from Lawrence School of Regulation on regulation of power sector. That's on the policy aspect. So when you begin to think about this, and I want to believe that all of this, even we coming here today, is at the end of it all, is for us to become better people in the energy sector, and also to be able to contribute in a way that improves Africa and also improves our own career. I see that Emmanuel has his hand raised. If you can speak, if you can unmute your mic, please go ahead.
Mr. Adeji, of course, I know you still have a bit of slides to do. There's going to be question and answers after your presentation. So if they can just do well to hold on to their questions, I think by the time you're done, we'll be able to explicitly, take questions. Everyone will be fine.
All right, thank you. If you feel you possibly could forget your questions, please drop them in the chat box. All right, so current energy landscape. There was a report by McKinsey, and that shows that fossil fuels, actually, the demand for fossil fuels peaked. What that means is that when the demand peaks, it means that the demand can no longer be higher than that in our lifetime. So it means that the only possibility is that demand will continue to now drop. That's what it means. So it then now shows us that natural gas and oil will remain a core part of the energy mix for decades. I can tell you this for free. In fact, scenario analysis have shown that until 2030, oil will be a major part of the African economy. I've heard a lot of people say, oil is going to, we're not going to use oil forever. That's not true. We're still going to use oil. So are people in the oil and gas space going to lose their jobs in the next couple of years? No, it's not going to happen. They're going to keep making money. They're still going to keep their jobs. Some of the things that we can make from crude oil, we have not found green ways to make them on a large scale. So it means that sometimes oil is still the best option. Take, for example, in plastic production, you have to think about that. Also, maybe when you talk about crane lift, how do you power crane lift? Diesel is still the best that we have around for those ones. We need to think about, is oil just going to go extinct and we're not going to use it again? The energy transition is not like that. That's why you have to think about it in an holistic manner. So also the World Energy Outlook by IEA shows that there is actually that there is going to be, or possibly we are facing an energy crisis. And you can look at why this is. There is an increase in population. There is high inflation globally, and then there is an increase in migration. So all of these things just contribute to, the greater demand of energy. And then also when you now look at the financing war, there is also a challenge when it comes to that. So there has also been volatility in energy prices. Also, that has affected the supply chains across the entire value chain, actually. So when you look at trends in sustainable energy, I know I have limited time, so I will try to rush up some sort of. When you look at trends in renewable energy, so you see that there is an increase in the number of renewables. A lot of capacity is being added in terms of renewables globally on the side of wind, and also solar. So a lot is being developed. In fact, I think 2022 was 2023, sorry, 2023 was called year of solar. A lot of solar renewable energy capacity was added than was, in 1 year, more renewable energy capacity was added than the world saw in the last 5 years before that time. So it just shows you that there is a lot, and there are reasons to this which I will touch. Reasons include, the rapidly decreasing price of solar panels, and also some materials for renewable energy installations. Also, there have been technological advancement, which this technological advancement also ties in with this, making them more efficient. We have solar panels that are about 69% efficient now. It used to be very lower than that. But now, 69% efficiency means that it can trap in 69% of the energy that touches those solar panels, which means it can produce more electricity over the same period of time. Also, there has been an increase in the amount of investment in clean energy. The case for this has been tied to several things, more advancement in research, more advancement in technology, like I mentioned. Also, the need to improve energy access across nations of the world, the need to transition from dirty energy to clean energy. So several things have impacted this investment, and investors are beginning to see that the energy space. In fact, for anyone that is probably interested in investment, I am, probably in terms of portfolio investment. I'll tell you this for free also. There are key areas that you might want to look at into the next decades: agriculture, infrastructure, and energy. Those are bankable places you can put your money. I mean, not you cannot you also have to be careful and think about how to go about your investment. But infrastructure is very key. It's one of, in fact, it has been said, there was a scenario analysis conducted by a company in Germany called Agora Energiewende, that from the year 2030 forward, Africa would massively begin. It will be possibly the year 2030 forward would be called the maybe Africa industrialization era. So Africa will massively begin to look into industrialization. Lots of industries will spring up. Lots of infrastructures will be built. Lots of investment also will be going into things like that. Also, agriculture will take a new turn in Africa. Also, there's also a report you might want to look at that by Africa Climate Foundation, that they did a study on investment pointers in Africa. And I think those were also some of the things that they mentioned. Globally, the electric vehicle market is also expanding. A lot of electric vehicles are being made. I mean, anyone in Africa knows that there are more even electric vehicle companies, those possibly for 2 and 3 wheelers, more of those in Africa. Lots of electric vehicles are being sold in the world. Also a lot of government initiatives, a lot of governments now have their own energy transition plan. Some have special policies made for special project financing. So a lot of things are going on in the world, several collaboration across countries. Take for example, is it Morocco? In some days ago, Morocco partnered with a Chinese company that will be investing, I think, about $33 million into battery production. So, a lot of things are happening globally. And therefore, it's important that we look at what are the places for us to look into. So, yeah. Types of renewable energy. I think I've touched on a bit of this. Biomass energy is energy derived from plants, let me put it like that, plants, but not cutting trees, but generally plants. And yeah, hydrogen. Anyone that should you be interested more in hydrogen, just a quick look through my profile on LinkedIn. I think you'll be able to find enough on hydrogen and ammonia. Hydrogen there are several types of hydrogen. There's also green biomass. There's also dirty biomass, so you want to think about that also. So there are a lot of types of hydrogen, green hydrogen, green hydrogen. There's turquoise, there's white, and then there is geologic hydrogen, which is one of the best discoveries. Also hydroelectric, that's hydro power, wind energy from wind, solar energy from the sun, geothermal from heat under the ground. So there are several types of renewable energy, and all of these have a way of contributing to our energy source and also to our community, helping us to advance towards a climate resilient future. Now, advantages of renewable energy, it has its environmental advantages, the economic benefits, the health benefits. The economic benefits could be in terms of job creation, also help us to keep our jobs, also help us to protect our economy, like I mentioned, in terms of energy security. Energy security is actually sort of economic security, because whatever affects your energy supply would affect your economy. When there is no energy supply, people will not be able to do their jobs the way they should be able to do their jobs. They will not be able to move around the way they want to move around, and manufacturing and production would be reduced. It also has health benefits in terms of cleaning and water. So the energy security aspect, I've spoken about that, and also environmental benefits. So I'll move on. I'll be sharing my slide with you guys if you want interested. Now, there are challenges in transitioning to renewable energy. I have economic and financial hurdles. One of those is high initial cost of implementing clean energy projects. At least I can take an example of Nigeria to install, I think, is a 5 kilowatt peak solar home system now. Possibly we need about 800,000 naira. That's not something an average salary earner in Nigeria would want to invest in at once. So when you think about that, the initial cost, but there are policies that can also help, reduce the tension regarding some of these challenges. Also, market competitiveness. When you begin to think about it, when you look at the cost, okay, does it have the capacity to compete in the market with other forms of energy? Take, for example, petrol or diesel. So those are things you need to think about. Infrastructural barriers. There's a lot of infrastructural growth that still needs to come into play for renewable energy. Infrastructure in terms of even the production infrastructure, in terms of the consumption infrastructure, storage, and also durability. Take, for example, one of the most expensive forms of storage is hydrogen storage. It's very expensive, massively expensive. There's a lot of research going on in that. Also, grid integration. Grid integration, it's not the expensiveness that comes into grid integration, it's actually the technical capacity. One of the countries that has been able to actively and do that well in terms of integration of renewable energy into their grid is Germany. They have been able to do that, and close to them. They are one of the best to learn from when it comes to integrating renewable energy into the grid. Also, when you look at the policy landscape, so the lack of consistent policies, the way, especially when it comes to Africa and also some developing economies, you see that maybe after a couple of years, a government comes in, they make their own policy, and then another government comes in after a couple of years, and then they say, whoop, we'll not be using that. We want to create our own strategic roadmap. that in itself has a way of affecting things. It has a way of affecting and building the trust of investors. Would investors trust us enough that their investment will be protected if our policies are not consistent? Would they even want to put money into something they are not sure of? Is the policy landscape in one country also the same as the policy landscape in another country? Things like that. A lot of things still needs to be looked into because there is no global policy system for the establishment of renewable energy projects in the world. There is none. Why? Because the landscape is different from place to place. What you need to consider in Nigeria is possibly different from what you need to consider maybe in South Africa. What you need to consider in South Africa is different from what you need to consider in a place like maybe Netherlands. So you need to think about those things and also how to regulate them. Take, for example, one of the most complex regulatory environments that I've seen in the world is in Nigeria. A lot of regulators, a lot of organizations just regulating one thing or the other. Need to look at, so who is in charge? Who do I answer to? Who are we supposed to meet for this and that? Some are clear, some are not, and that also poses a challenge. Also, the social and political factors, like public acceptance. Public acceptance is a big deal. People think, the public is always willing and open to clean energy. That's not true. Sometimes the public will just say, just give us our oil and gas. Let's just keep on using what we are using. This technology that we're not sure of. I mean, talk about hydrogen. Talk about hydrogen. How many people understand even hydrogen? The fact is that if you were in an open space, right? If you were walking on your street, hydrogen actually can be burning in the middle of the road and nobody will see it. It's actually it's a flame that you don't see the flame. So just think about that, how people would react when they hear things like that. But there is a lot of trainings that still done. I was speaking somewhere and I was sharing with them how that globally, I think there are less than 1 million hydrogen safety engineers in the world. So that begins to show you that all of these are opportunities. So all of these things that I've said could be one thing or the other that you choose to focus your career on, because these gaps are opportunities. The initial cost, I'll think about it. What can we do to reduce the initial cost? How can we support organizations, to edge their risk? Those are things that you might want to think about. I've mentioned the case of hydrogen. There is a need for a lot more hydrogen engineers in the world. We need more people to understand how hydrogen works. And also the political will also, so you can work in the policy space, supporting policy implementation, just pushing policies, conducting a lot of research, a lot of stakeholder engagement. I work in this space, so that's possibly my day-to-day activity. Some days you are just building PowerPoint slides. That's not one of the fun things to do. Getting the information that you need, doing some market surveys and a lot of that. Also international cooperation, in terms of investment, in terms of collaboration, sharing ideas and knowledge, funding from external funders, getting funding from them. Also technology transfer. The technology transfer is a big case globally. A lot of promises made, but not so much has been done. So technology transfer is actually not in terms of technology as in technology. It's actually in terms of funding for development of technology and also expertise from developed world to developing economies. So these are some of the challenges that is actually still being experienced in the transition to energy. So this is a stat from Statista showing what the energy landscape would possibly look like going into the next 20, 30 years. So we see that coal is set to remain the same. Now, I understand people think that coal is a bad thing. I'm going to tell you something. Use what you have first. In that process, plan and choose to transit. Like I said, it's a geopolitical war, and you have to be smart in your decisions. So coal is set to remain the same. Renewables are expected to increase gradually. Natural gas also is meant to remain the same, but this also shows you that this and this are not going anywhere. coal and natural gas are not going anywhere. Then have nuclear. Nuclear is there's a challenge with nuclear, it's usually on the safety aspect. But looking into the future, there is a lot that can still be done. I think there is now a new technology. Instead of using nuclear fission, which is the separation, it uses nuclear fusion, which is the combination of radioatomic isotope. So it just shows you how that the energy sector is expected to, grow into the coming years. There is a lot that is expected to happen into the coming years. So I decided to, someone said we're hoping that I will speak on transport. I decided to speak on two areas on where to watch for. So one of them is transport, the other one is solar, which I will be. So since 2022, the world has actually experienced that. 2019 actually, there has been a massive increase in the amount of electric vehicles sold, and it is expected that there will be 31.1 million electric vehicles on our streets globally in the world by 2030. Now, people think that what is the challenge in supplying electric vehicles? A lot. Producing the batteries. Producing the batteries means mining some of the minerals needed to produce the batteries. And that in itself has supply chains considerations that you need to think about. And then when you begin to think about that, you also have to look at the social aspect because, I mean, we have seen that a lot of illegal mining happen across the world, especially in Africa, and those need to be done properly, else it will not be helping the world in the long run. We'll be making something bad on one end and making it better on the other end. There will be more poor people where we have maybe clean electricity. The poor people that are mining those things will possibly also contact diseases like cancer from those illegal mining, because illegal mining means improper mining. It will not be done properly. There's no necessary machinery. So you need to think about, these are a lot of things. And that in itself, that challenge in itself is an opportunity for a business endeavor. So there is expected that electric vehicle sales will actually increase going into the coming years, and that by 2030, that electric cars will make 58% of new passenger cars sold globally. I'm going to tell you something about this stat. This stat is actually very important for Africans. Mr. Mayowa, just for me to confirm, are people on this call, are they Africans?
Yes, they are widely spread across Africa, about some 36 countries.
All right, but they are all Africans, yeah?
Yes, all Africans.
All right, thank you. Now, the reason I wanted to say this is because it's important that Africans begin to think about how to grow their own electric vehicle infrastructure. And I'm going to tell you why. Most of the places most of the cars we use in Africa are imported. Internal combustion engine cars. They got some called, someone said it's ICE, but I've never called it that. I don't think. Doesn't make sense to my ear. But internal combustion engine cars, ICEs. Most of those vehicles are imported. Now, most of those countries where those vehicles are imported from, their government are already saying by 2030 or 2035, you should stop making internal combustion vehicles. What does that tell you? It means that when those companies stop making internal combustion engine vehicles and they start making electric vehicles, if we do not have the necessary infrastructure, what are we going to be using? Because if you don't have charging stations across your street, would you go and import electric vehicles, or are we going to start planning by then? So, which makes it important that we start looking into establishing those infrastructures, stimulating the policies, aggravating towards the finance that will be able to position us to grow our economy. We don't have to do everything last. We don't have to be the last ones to do everything. We can actually take the lead when it comes to electric vehicle market. Why? Because we have most of the minerals that are needed in the electric vehicle market. I wrote a paper. If you need it, I can send it to Mr. Mayowa to share it with you on Africa's critical minerals and the global EV market. So I wrote on how Africa actually has a major place in the global EV market if only we can maximize our minerals. There is a lot that can still be done in terms of battery technology. It's expected to increase the range and decrease. And people say that, oh, there is a range anxiety. But there is a report, I can also send it to Mr. Mayowa, that was done by ICCT, International Council of Clean Transportation. I read them a lot because my PhD is focused on a lot of the things that they do. And they did a research, and the research shows that actually the current range of most electric vehicles are enough for most people. Because take, for example, you have an electric vehicle that has 300-kilometer range. You most likely would charge your vehicle maybe once or twice per month. That's enough. People think that, the range is not enough. That's not true. If you are using it within your country, post that. But people now say, okay, what if we want to travel to another place? That's okay, take public transport. But I don't want to take public transport. Why? Why do we think? And I know that there is this thinking, especially in Africa, that first you must build your own house the way you want to build it. That's fine. If you have the money. I'm not against anybody building your own. Then you must buy your own car, the type that you want, and use your car everywhere you go. Why? There is nothing wrong with public transport. There is absolutely nothing wrong. If it's properly managed and well organized, I was telling someone that if I had 1 billion euros today, I know where to invest it. The person said, where? I said, I'll tell you. I don't have it, so it's not a novel idea. Possibly a lot of people have thought about it. It's in Lagos State in Nigeria, and Benin Republic, Cotonou. There is a lot of police checkpoints. I think now we can say, okay, maybe it's because of insecurity. So if I had that money, what will I do? I will make available a railway connecting both regions and then put a train on it. And for every trip, you're going to be paying me maybe 50,000 naira. I don't know how much that is. Okay, so maybe that's about $50. And for every trip, you're going to be paying me $50. And instead of spending maybe 2 or 3 hours on the road, I know that sometimes the road is bad. You're going to be spending possibly maybe 30 minutes, and you pay me money, right? So, and maybe it's a train that maybe operates on nitrogen. I'm protecting the environment, I'm protecting people, I'm protecting the nation, I'm protecting the economy. So there is a lot that can be done. When you see that those cabs, just think about them. So electric vehicles do not have, back to what I was saying, do not have bad range as it were. And also we are also seeing that the price of lithium-ion batteries are also dropping. I think I faintly mentioned that. In fact, there was a research that was conducted by TU Berlin, Technical University of Berlin, and they show that in the next 10 years, scratch that, in the next 5 years, it is very possible, now in Europe, so I'm not focused on Africa for now, but maybe say globally, it is very possible that solar panels will be free. It is very possible. Based on the way the cost is declining, that solar panels will be free and batteries will be very cheap. I mean, look at lithium-ion batteries. Now, I know that is not usually the case in many African economies. Why? We have our FX issues, we have the supply chain issues. Those batteries are not made locally. But that also tells us another thing. Why can't we make those batteries in our countries? So there are opportunities for us that we can actually maximize. Why can't we go and make the electric vehicles in our countries? Let's say we are not making our countries. Okay, the whole of West Africa come together and have a production plant that supplies all your battery needs and electric vehicle needs. The whole of Southern Africa come together and do the same. The whole of Eastern Africa come together and do the same. The whole of Northern Africa come together and do the same. And let these regional plants share information among themselves based on advances in research and everything. It is one of the reasons I am not so much convinced about the work the African Union is doing. I know that they have a lot on their hands, but I think that there is much more that can be done in Africa. Also, in terms of aviation, when we look at the electric aircraft, there is also advancements towards making an electric aircraft. The challenge with that is the weight of batteries. But another option is hydrogen, and potentially, and the first hydrogen flight has been conducted. Actually, I think it happened in the US. It was a flight, but it was a one-way flight. Just so we know, it was a one-way flight, and it was an intercity flight about 1 hour from each other, and it was a successful one. So it means that future of aviation is that we'll have flight. By the way, I think I need to mention it. The use of hydrogen can also be, especially in transport, can also be classified under electric vehicles. So you have something like fuel cell electric vehicles. Just so I clarify that, because not usually thought of like that. So urban air mobility, so there is also a market for urban air mobility, including air taxis. I mean, you'll see flying cars very soon. I'm not giving you jokes. You'll see flying cars very soon, electric ones. And there is a lot that will be coming up in the coming years. So you can begin to look at each of these and look at ways that you want to fit yourself into the sector, what you want to do, what you want to focus on in the future. All right. So another place to focus on is solar. So there is also a growth in solar capacity. We saw that there is, as of 2020, the global solar capacity was actually 707 gigawatts. And it's expected to reach 3,000 gigawatts by 2030. That already shows you the kind of investment that's going into solar. So I see a lot of people come into the space and they say, I want to go for something novel. No, we all need solar. We need solar. In fact, last week Saturday, Friday, I was speaking about a place. I was speaking at a place. It was on Twitter, on the Twitter space. I was speaking on the electricity, the power sector in Nigeria. And despite everything that I knew, and everybody was applauding me, told me that I need to groom myself more when it comes to the electricity market and solar space. Um, it's important. It's important. And we also look at how the expansion in the solar market, because all of these things are intertwined and they have a way of affecting one another in the coming future. Okay. Track. So also cost reductions. There is also some sort of cost reductions which I've mentioned in terms of solar panels. The price is gradually reducing. I mean, look at this. Look at this. It shows you how the price can be going into the nearest future. The economies of scale is also one thing that the world is benefiting from. Economies of scale just means when you produce something in bulk, it sort of reduces the cost price. And also that impacts on the sales price. So technological advancement. So there is a lot of efficiency. I think I've mentioned some of these things, efficiency in solar panels. Also the storage, there is a lot of battery storage inventions and innovations that is going on in the world. And we expect that will become better in the coming future. So the future of the renewable energy space is very bright. There is a lot that we can look into and can be so in the future outlook. Take for example in the United States. And why I'm taking the United States is because the United States is one of the companies that is leading when it comes to battery technology and solar energy. So the Energy Information Administration. So while you have IEA, which is International Energy Agency, the US has its own Energy Information Administration, and they are expecting that the deployment of renewables would reach about 42 gigawatts in 2024, just for the country alone. So it already shows how that globally there is an increase. This you can take a cue from this. Globally, there is an increase. Also, Irina, I said that there will be more jobs going into the coming years in the renewable energy space. Like I said, does that necessarily mean that there will be a loss of jobs in the oil and gas sector? No. But will there be a loss of jobs? Yes. But does it mean that a lot of people, everybody will lose their jobs? No. But if I have the opportunity to advise people in the oil and gas sector, I will tell them, take up some knowledge of renewables. Just take one and grow yourself. That's how you can preserve your relevance. So the future also holds promises for investment, a lot of policies, like I've mentioned, and also technological advancement. A lot is happening in the world. Several changes and developments are going on, and that's all from me. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen. It's been very, very engaging and interesting, and I'm very sure our participants have gained tremendously. So that we won't be holding Mr. Stephen down unnecessarily, because I believe he might have one or two things that he wants to do. We'll be releasing Mr. Stephen now. So on behalf of the leadership of the IDEV Africa, we want to appreciate you for taking time to come on the call. You've been instrumental in time past, and you've also been very, very helpful and open to us at this time. We hope that when we call in subsequent time, you will respond to us and will be here to also dish out and bless other participants. Thank you very much for the wonderful job, Mr. Ayodeji Stephen. So with a virtual club, I want us to appreciate him. Let's appreciate him for the job well done. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Yes, thank you very much. At this time, normally we're supposed to take questions, but I won't be taking any question right now. However, like I would say, that every question is actually very important. So, peradventure you have one or two questions that you want to share or you want to ask, kindly note them down, share with us. You can share on the platforms. You can reach out to any of the leadership teams, and we'll be glad to respond to you appropriately. Also, please kindly pay attention to your email for communications, and if there is any other adjustment or development, always pay attention to your email. At this point, we'll be calling it a wrap for the day, and I hope to see you next week, same time. So thank you very much for joining me on the call. Have a lovely day today, everyone. Bye.